Hi, my name's Mark and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to walk you through my $2,500 yarn haul from the month of December. After that, I'll show some of my stash yarn remaining from previous purchases, and stick around to the end of the video to see my absolute favorite notions and tools from 2023. Let's get into it. For any crafters out there, obviously you're familiar with the storage solutions we have to find for our yarn or other supplies, whatever your craft or hobby may be. So here I am in a guest room at my house, and I have two pegboards that I've rigged up for my yarn stash. I have skeins displayed on the left, the ones that are still in hanks, and then on the right side board I've got partial skeins, things that are now stash yarn. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but the pegs I'm using have rounded tips so they won't skewer the yarn. Here I've got a picture from Beatrix Potter, and I think this cap is very relatable. My goal for this video is that you see some yarn that maybe you haven't worked with before, or see a pattern I mention and it's something that inspires you. So let's get into it, starting with my bulky weight yarn. I don't buy a lot of bulky yarn. I don't like working on too large of a needle or crochet hook, so usually I stick to worsted yarn and lighter weight. But I've got here a skein of Woolstock Tweed from Blue Sky Fibers, and I got this at a local yarn shop. I wanted to see if I liked the fiber, what it was like. It has the same colorways as Woolstock, but with the tweed added, of course. And then this is a skein, again from Blue Sky Fibers, of their Extra, which is an Aran weight yarn. This one I think is really, really beautiful. The feel of it is incredibly soft, and it's a nice lofty fiber that I think will bloom and block out nicely when I finish a project. I just got a sort of neutral shade because I'm not exactly sure what I'll do with it yet. My non-superwash worsted yarn starts with this stack of Woolstock, again from Blue Sky Fibers. I've got this cast iron, and I think I'm going to use it for an Ingrid slipover from Petite Knit. I made that pattern last year, and I actually lost my slipover. I don't know where in the world I left it, but I was really sad because I love the pattern, I love the fit, so I think I'll do it this year out of that cast iron. I've also got a sweater quantity in Loon Lake. I think this is a really beautiful blue. They have another blue shade that's called October Sky that's a bit more of a denim blue. It's really attractive, but I like the Loon Lake. It's got a nice dimension to it with the highlights and lowlights. Here, this is currently my favorite color of Woolstock. It's Wild Thyme. And I used this yarn last year to make a sweater from Caitlin Hunter, the Oksa sweater. And I loved working with this. The sweater pattern was great. I'd highly recommend it. Really classy while still being rustic and a bit earthy. So I'm not sure what I'll do this time, but something cabled for sure. And I've got a sweater quantity here of Highland Fleece. I'm thinking I'll use this for a fisherman's sweater, something very textured, and most likely I'll try to create a pattern of my own, so I got plenty of yardage just in case I need to use it. I'll say that Woolstock is my favorite worsted weight yarn. It might be my favorite yarn in general at the moment. I love their colorways, and I think it's a really enjoyable fiber to work with. Easy on the hands, beautiful wool, and it blocks out miraculously. So I can get it at my local shop, which is Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights, Ohio. So it's been my go-to, and I think I'll keep using it until I get sick of it, which may be never. I've got this shade here. Gravel Road, it's what I initially made my slip over out of, the one I lost. So I got another quantity of it just in case I want to remake it both in cast iron and Gravel Road. We'll see how I feel. Now in superwash worsted weight, I'm starting with this skein of Vivacious DK from Fiber Spates. Even though it's called DK, it really acts as a worsted, so I'm subbing it out for a Weekender from Andrea Mowry, and that'll be a gift for my husband. And I have 2 skeins of it in front of me because the rest are already knit into the body of that sweater. Now, out of Rios Teal Feather, I'm doing another Weekender. This is for a good friend of ours, and on screen it looks pretty blue, but in real life it's very teal. Beautiful, vibrant shade of teal, and I'll use these skeins for another Weekender. I've got a few miscellaneous skeins of Rios. I get these single skeins when I really like the color, and I think maybe I'll use them for things like fingerless gloves, maybe a pair of mittens. Definitely could use them for hats. It's nice to have a short list of single skein projects, and I think Rios is nice because it's a super wash. You could give it to someone and they could run it through the washing machine, it'll survive, versus giving them something that's more delicate or a non-super wash that they might accidentally felt or ruin. So I think Rios is nice to have on hand, and again, this is something I can get from my local shop. So when I see a color I love, I go ahead and grab it. Speaking of colors I love, this Medusa color I think is really cool. I haven't used it for a project yet, but I can imagine a beautiful hat with the color pooling, or a beautiful pair of mittens, or you could use it for something larger if you have a sort of bold style. Just a few skeins left of superwash worsted. One more from Rios. I'm not as crazy about this color now as I was when I first bought it, but it's definitely more grounded than Medusa, so I thought for somebody who maybe doesn't want too bold of a color or variegation, this could work. And then I've got a skein here of Spiral Grain from Earth Yarns. This is their Spiral Grain Light Worsted. I think it's a really pretty color, and I like the effect of the spiral ply. Not exactly sure what I'll use it for. This one was actually a gift. So it's something pretty on my yarn wall for now. And the last skein is from Tina's Twisted Fibers. Tina is a hand dyer local to me in northeastern Ohio. She does beautiful work. Her colorways are really lovely, and her base yarn that she uses is a really nice fiber. You can buy Tina's Twisted Fiber through aroundthetableyarns.com or through her Etsy page, I believe. So I'll put those links in the description box below. My DK and sport weight haul is a pretty good mixture of superwash and non-superwash. Starting out with this Eco Puna, which is 100% baby alpaca. And I'm actually using this color for a field cardigan. I made the field sweater, you may have seen my video on that, and then I wanted to do another project. So I love this yarn and I thought it would be really beautiful, especially with the sort of loose drape from alpaca, for a field cardigan. A really nice feature of this Eco Puna is that the colorways are natural from the alpaca. So they have a good range of natural shades, and they also have a black that comes from black alpaca. And here's my field cardigan in progress. The stitch definition will definitely be enhanced after blocking, but it's been a real joy to work with. From the same company, I have a few skeins of this Mayu. This is baby alpaca with cashmere and silk. So if I felt like the alpaca of the Ecopuna was already luxurious, this is just kicking it up several notches. It's incredibly soft fiber, and these do come in a colorway, a range of colors that are dyed. So I have a few of these deep navy blue that I'll pair with a natural white or off-white of Ecopuna. And I'm going to make a sort of vintage varsity style sweater with those. Next, I have a few skeins of Scout. That's my kitten, Scout. You may have seen him in other videos. He's named after this yarn. I got the navy here with an orange, and I'm going to use both of these together for a sweater from Petite Knit that I'll pop up on the screen. And I have a million skeins of the navy. I think I ended up with several left over from the Maya cardigan that I made a few months ago. I'll put that pattern up on the screen as well. So leftovers from that included almost a full skein of white in Scout, about 3/4 of a skein of this rust from Scout, and then this was not from that project, but it's a skein that I've already wound that I think I'll use for a Thea Coleman sweater. So I'll pop that up on the screen as well. It's always nice to work with a non-superwash because of the stitch definition I get, and I really like the colors of Scout. Again, it's something that blocks out pretty miraculously, so it's nice to have that safety net as I work my projects. This skein is from Ancient Arts, and it is a custom colorway for a Black Locust farm in Lodi, Ohio, and I picked this up locally. It was a special colorway as part of a yarn crawl that we do in northeastern Ohio called the Yarn Discovery Tour. Something else I picked up on that Discovery Tour was this skein of La Bien-Aimée from Cast On Yarn Studio in Vermilion, Ohio. And I love this colorway. I think I could make dozens of projects out of this colorway and not get tired of looking at it. I think it's so dreamy, stormy, moody, really beautiful. Then I have 2 more skeins of La Bien-Aimée, and these were gifts at Christmas just last week. So I'm not exactly sure what I'll do with these yet, but they're a really beautiful, vibrant purple. Then I've got a skein of Arroyo from Malabrigo, a really punchy, variegated color. I'm not sure what I'll use it for, but it was one of those that I saw and I thought, I want this in my stash, just in case I find a purpose for it in the future. And this spiral grain is in the sport weight. It was a gift, so I didn't choose the color. I think it's really pleasant, sort of neutral color. And initially I was thinking I might want to use it for the Alpine Bloom hat, but I don't think the color is quite saturated enough to stand up for that colorwork project. So we'll see. And these 2 skeins were also gifts. I don't know where exactly they came from, but they're a lovely pair. So we'll see how long they live on my wall and when I'll turn them into something. Next up, I've got a pretty enormous haul of Rowan felted tweed. I have some colors with just 2 or 3 skeins, maybe even a couple singles, and then 3 or 4 sweater quantities. I purchased these locally when they were on clearance. So again, this isn't something that racked up at full price, and it was such a good deal that I thought now is the time. So I picked the colors I liked, and if there was a sweater quantity, I went for it. And the singles I thought might come in handy for some color work or for single skein projects. Again, things like a pair of gloves. So I really like Rowan felted tweed. I've already made one cabled sweater out of a blue shade. It was a Thea Coleman pattern, Vesper with a twist. And I'll use some of these other sweater quantities for cardigans. Rowan felted tweed is a light DK, and I think the resulting fabric I get from it is so lofty and truly lightweight that it's very versatile. I think I could wear it for most of the year and have a breathable, comfortable garment. So some of these will end up as cardigans, and others might be sweaters or even other projects that aren't sweaters. If you know me or you've watched some of my other videos, you might know how much I love sweaters. I feel like, I don't know, I have a long, long list of sweater patterns that I'm dreaming of making, and this year my goal was to make a sweater each month, and I ended up making 15 sweaters. So my closet is now pretty stocked with sweaters, but maybe I'll keep going, and maybe a lot of my friends and family members will start receiving sweaters. We'll see. I think it's nice to be able to show your hard work, and for people to share in the triumph of a finished project. All right, I'm going to stop talking, and I'll let the rest of this Rowan felted tweed zoom by. We start off our fingering weight yarn with Cricket from Kelbourne Woolens. This is an Irish wool, really beautiful, kind of uneven fiber, thick and thin in parts. Really beautiful colors. If you find the posting somewhere online at a shop and look through the different colorways, I feel like I could make a project out of every single color they offer. And I'm pairing that tweed with Woolstock Light for a sweater from the Petite Knitter. So I'll pop that up on the screen here with some foxes in it. So I've got the orange, the cream, and some of the colors are already pulled in my bag as I've cast that on already. Next, we have a handful of skeins from Malabrigo. This is Malabrigo Machida, which is a fairly light fingering, really beautiful, smooth fiber. I really liked this Storm colorway. Very similar to the DK weight of Malabrigo I showed earlier. And then I bought initially the 2 navy Paris Night skeins to go with it. And when I bought it, I thought I might do a sweater with some color work. I have some more skeins of this already wound off camera, but I'm not sure if I'll follow through that pattern or not. But they're really beautiful, and I like blue, so I'm sure I can plug them into another project if need be. I've got one skein here of Dream Cashmere. Kind of a wacky color choice for me. I was thinking this would be good to plug in as a pop of color with some of my fingering weight projects. You'll see when I get to my stash that I have a lot of partial skeins of fingering weight, so this Dream Cashmere might get mixed in with some of those. Now, for one of my favorite yarns, Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock. I have a really scruffy skein of Cauldron there. I actually re-skeined it after winding it into a cake, and it was a little scruffy in that process, so don't mind that. The Tough Love Sock in color Arbutus that I just showed is currently on my needles. I'm doing a festive sweater with Arbutus and a sequin runner. And I've got eyelets there that will block out even further when I finish the project. And I thought this would be fun for the next holiday season. Here I have 2 skeins of Ancient Arts out of Canada. And these were both on clearance at my local shop. And again, with clearance yarn, if it's there and it's calling my name, I feel like it's never going to be cheaper than at that moment. So if I can see myself making a project with it, I go ahead and snag it. So I've got those 2 speckled skeins. Next, I've got 2 skeins of undyed wool. I got these from another local shop. It's called Longtail Knits in the northeastern Ohio area. And I picked these up with the aim of actually dyeing them at home. I don't think I have any interest in becoming a hand dyer, but They had these at the shop as well as several dyes, and of course there are ways of dyeing naturally, so I thought I'd get it as a fun arts and craft project for a future weekend. And my last two skeins of fingering yarn are these Chosky skeins. They are wool and cotton and linen. Wool, cotton, and linen blend. I really like the purple color. I don't think I will make these into socks. I don't like to spend my time knitting socks. I've done it before, and I really admire people who are good sock knitters, and I like to buy hand knit or hand cranked socks. But as I mentioned, I love sweaters, and so if I'm spending all that time knitting, I really like it to be something more visible and maybe more durable than a sock. Some of the yarn in this stash was purchased very recently. This sparkle runner, for example, was purchased with the Tough Love sock for that project that's on my needles that I showed earlier. And I've got this Rossetti Cotton Gold. I bought it last year and haven't used it yet, but you never know when you're going to need some sparkle. So I thought it's nice to have on hand. I've got a couple of other runners here in my stash. These are pom-pom runners from Ikigai Fibers. The line is called Tama, and I've got this harvest color, which I think is really pretty. The first one I showed is Unicorn, and then the third in my stash is Matcha. Again, something nice to have on hand. I've seen these used in the brim of hats for certain rows of baby blankets, and they're really pretty. This is another shade of Cricket that I purchased last year. I really love this color, this sort of rust, and I have enough of it to do definitely a sweater vest, maybe a full sweater. I've got another skein off camera. And then I have lots of overflow yarn. This is an extra skein of Arbutus from Sweet Georgia Fibers that I used in a Tony Lipsy crochet pattern in this last year. I've got two whirls here. These are light fingering cotton cakes with a slow gradient. Probably something I'll use for a crochet project in the future. And this is a little bit of remaining yarn from a skein I bought in Connecticut on a trip, and I ended up making 2 or 3 pairs of fingerless mitts out of that skein, and I have a little bit left over, just in case I need to repair in the future. A couple skeins of Machita from Malabrigo. This is one of my favorite skeins. I haven't used it yet, only because I like it so much. I'm kind of nervous to commit it to a project. I got this in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it's called Stella Luna, and it's got a little bit of tweed in it, but it's a really beautiful fingering weight yarn. This was a gift a handful of years ago from a friend. It was part of a sock club, and they didn't get to choose the color. It's a really vibrant, wacky color that I'll probably end up using as either a pop in a larger project, or maybe I'll use it for some sort of Stephen West project. These two are also from Connecticut, and they are Crazy. It says no two alike. I like the different colors in the ply. I think this is something I would use similarly to the spiral grain that I showed earlier. So something nice to have on hand when the pattern presents itself. And 2 skeins of rainbow striping yarn. These are from a sock kit from Earth Yarns. And then another rainbow. This is, I believe, Camp Color. And I like that the rainbow striping in this is sporadic. I've seen people crochet things and knit things from this yarn, and you get nice pooling of rainbow, but the majority of your project is still black. So it's a more subtle way to use that rainbow. I've got a couple mini skeins here. I usually don't buy mini skeins for fear of not finding the right project for them. Here's another mini skein. So that's what happened in this case. I bought the mini skeins. I haven't found a purpose for them. Maybe I'll find something eventually. Now this big skein is also from Connecticut. It's actually from the farm where my in-laws get their Christmas trees. So it's locally sourced and made in Connecticut from that farm, which is nice. I haven't found a purpose for it yet, but I look forward to using it. These 2 skeins are really, really luscious fiber. They are from a fiber producer out of Michigan, Kat, from Why Not Fibers. And this base is Serene, which I forget the makeup of. Let's see on the back. Baby alpaca, silk, cashmere. So these are super luxurious, like the Mayu I showed earlier in the video. And I paired these 2 colors thinking I would do some sort of brioche. I think I pinned a brioche cowl pattern for those 2. Now another hand dyer that I bought from in the last year. This is Allegheny Fiber Arts out of Pennsylvania. And I picked these for a really interesting Nora Gone sweater. And last year I took it to the beach and I knit the front panel, or the complete front piece of the sweater. So I have that in my stack of works in progress, and I look forward to finishing it. I didn't have any issues with it. I just had a lot of projects on my needles at the time. Next, I've got another skein of Cricut. This, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Really beautiful. I bought it from Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights, and I think it's so pretty. It's one of my favorite colorways I've ever purchased, and like the Stella Luna, I'm just nervous to use it because I like it so much. I've got a couple skeins here. One I know is a smushy cashmere. I think the more variegated 2 are smushy cashmere, and actually the orange is a sweet Georgia, left over from my painting bricks sweater. So those 3 were smushy cashmeres to go with the green. All of these have been partially used for various striped projects at this point. And then I've got a little bundle here of Sweet Georgia Tough Love sock that are left from my painting bricks sweater. I posted a video on that sweater, and in it I talked about having a lot of each 100 gram skein remaining. And I made a pretty large size sweater. I think I made a 2X or 3X. So I've got a lot of those I can reuse. And my final skein of stash yarn is this self-striping from Unique. this is going to be my favorite part of the video. The tools I use every day in my knitting are so valuable and important to me. So first, I've got all of my cords for my ChiaoGoo interchangeable needles, and I keep them in a pouch that my friend Megan got me at Walgreens. Very generous. Thanks, Megan. And my interchangeable ChiaoGoo 4-inch tips. This set I use for hats when I need to make a 16-inch needle. And similarly, I have my 5-inch interchangeable ChiaoGoo set that I keep in this folio. So this is what I reach for every day when I'm knitting. And I probably have multiples of most of the tip sizes because sometimes I have 2 projects going on at once and I don't want to take the needles apart to go back and forth sharing the tips. Next, I've got, I think, my most used notion of 2023, maybe a tie between this and my tapestry needles. But this is a barber cord from the Knitting Barber, and it's pretty ingenious. It's just a tube of silicone, but the tube has an opening at the tip so it can suction right onto the tip of your needles, whatever kind of needles you're using, bamboo, stainless, doesn't matter. And then you're able to slide your work directly from your needles to the silicone tube pretty swiftly, and that allows you to hold stitches. It also, more importantly, allows you to try on your work at any point in the process. Since I make so many sweaters, this really is worth its weight in gold because I can try things on whenever and make sure that I like the shaping, make sure I like the fit, and I'm not wasting any time knitting and redoing in case it doesn't fit. This was a Christmas gift this year. It's a really beautiful stitch stopper or needle stopper. It has a spring and you squeeze down on the top and you're able to insert your needles. And you could either have this stitch stopper sit on the tips of your needles, or you can slide it up further and have it sit on the cord if you're using a circular needle. So this was really beautiful, a really thoughtful gift, and makes me feel pretty fancy as I start and stop my knitting projects. And when I'm not feeling quite as fancy, I settle for these cute Highland cattle. Now, the tie for my most used notion of the year is definitely going to be these tulip tapestry needles. I love this set, don't mind the T-pins. I keep a couple extra T-pins in my set just because as an interchangeable needle user, I reach for T-pins often. But there's the set of tapestry needles. Comes with 5 different sizes. I use the largest mostly, and I can fit up to worsted or light bulky weight through the eye of this needle. And the set I have is a rounded tip. They also make a pointed tip version, more like a sewing needle. And I'm showing my tulip needle against a sort of traditional medium-sized darning needle from Cocoa Knits. You'll see how much larger the Cocoa Knits needle is. I like the tulip, I prefer it, because I'm able to really split stitches when I'm burying my ends. And I just think it's easier to use, and the little case is magnetic, which is nice. I'm not going to lose any, they're not going to fall out. And when this is in my bag, some of my little metal stitch markers conveniently cling to the front of the case. Next, I've got this cute little tin inside of which I have baby scissors. It's nice to have little scissors. I travel pretty frequently for work, and on every flight I bring knitting, I bring multiple sets of needles, and I always bring a small pair of scissors. I've never had any issue with things being taken away. These are domestic flights in the United States, and it's nice to have all of these supplies in miniature size. I've got 2 nice tape measures there. And then this is just the jar of tools that I keep handy on my knitting desk. I've got a stitch fixer with crochet hook at one end and knitting needle at the other. Some small brass markers. They're cat themed. I like small markers when I can so they don't really get in the way of my knitting. I've got a shawl pin, more darning needles, and here's one of my Cocoa Knits markers. If I'm not using a sort of whimsical, stylish stitch marker, then I really like to go with these cocoa knit markers. I have the flight of markers, which gives me a sampling of several different styles. So if you're starting out and you need good markers, I'd say go with cocoa knits if your stores sell them, or buy them online. And it's nice that they are metal. If you have a magnetic pouch, if you have one of those wristbands with a magnet, if you wear one of the pendants, it's great to be able to stick a tapestry needle, a couple stitch markers to that magnetic base. Now for the bags I've been carrying. This is a Bonnie Bischoff bag, and she has this collection of woodland creatures that are all doing knitting related activities. The foxes are modeling, the squirrels are winding from a hank of yarn, and it's a nice sized bag. I like that it has a zipper at the top, and then the straps are long enough that I can put them over my shoulder and carry my bag pretty easily. Another bag I've been using a lot is a bag from a local maker to me, and this is the company Spinning Loft, and Paula at Spinning Loft makes beautiful bags, like incredible finishing. She picks really great fabrics. Here I have what I call these cursed animals. I like that all of their eyes are kind of blackened out, but really, look at their sweaters. I think they're just adorable. It's a great look. So her bags have great deep pockets, strong handles, and what I like is that she does magnetic closures on several of her bags. So I can easily open it and close it throughout my project time, and I'm not going to have everything slip out. And then I've got another deep pocket on the inside. So I'll make sure to include a link to her page in the description box below. And she also sells her bags at Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights, which is where I find them in person. Before the holiday season, I was using another Paula bag, and this one, I think, again, great fabric, adorable, with the hiker, the dog on the hill, the stream, the river passing through, so cute. So this was my go-to bag for most of the year, and I'll probably go back to it after I finish using the cursed animals, as I call them, for wintertime. On this bag, I have to show you in a second, there are sheep, which was another reason I wanted to use it. They are grazing in the field at the foothills of the mountain. So I'll flip this over, and you'll be able to see the little sheep there. They're discreet, but really sweet. So I've talked a lot about my local shop. I'm really lucky to have a great resource in Around the Table Yarns. They carry so much fiber. The actual footprint of the store is not enormous. You can see, front of the store to the back of the store, but everywhere you look, beautifully stocked fibers, a great range of price points, everything from acrylic to silk and cashmere, a big book supply here, a lot of magazines as well. So I'm lucky to have this in person. I hope that if you have a good local yarn shop to you, that you're shopping local as much as you can. And in the event that you don't have a local yarn shop, I hope that when you're shopping online, you can find the opportunity to shop from a small business. I always link Around the Table Yarns in my video description box for those of you that might be looking for a store or a place to find these fibers. So I'd recommend checking it out if you don't already have a trusted yarn shop in your life. Knitting has become something really important to me in the last 6 years, and so it really feeds my soul and makes me feel like I belong. It gives me a productive activity. So I hope these videos are helpful to you, and I appreciate you spending this time looking through the yarn that makes me happy. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video. If it's your first time on my channel, I'd really appreciate you taking the time to like, comment, or subscribe for future videos. If you're a knitter or crocheter or any sort of crafter, I'd love to hear from you in the comments about your purchases and what projects you think you'll work on in 2024. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.